Opening transition. So, my fellow followers, it has come to my attention that I have not made a video in a very long time. So, I decided I'm going to start a little series that, if I get enough viewers, will catch on. I'm going to be doing something where basically, if you guys subscribe a lot or whatever, I'm going to be making individual reviews of my favorite movies of all time. I'm going to be doing a top 10, kind of 11 list, and we're going to start off with my 10th favorite film. Alright? So our first one, first off, this is going to be a bit of a podcast format. That's why there is absolutely no editing. First movie off, Bullet Train. Oh my god, I love Bullet Train. And for this video, we're not going to be doing any stops right now. Like a bullet train. Ha, I'm kidding. I know how trains work. Kind of. But yeah, so mostly I'm gonna break down why Bullet Train is a masterpiece in this video called Bullet Train's Impact. So all of you less than 10% of people who subscribed, according to my most popular video, let's jump into Bullet Train's Impact. First off, action movies, especially nowadays, are extremely common and make up a lot of our movies. However, have many movies like, the Fast and Furious movies really stood out? Due to the fact that we get this many movies, they can have a bit of a mixed output. Some good, some bad, but normally don't have much going on for it other than the action is good. Once in a while, you get exceptions that subvert these expectations, that have actual intelligence behind what is happening. Shocking, I know, and have fitting elements of movies that, in others, aren't really fleshed out beyond the basics. Sometimes we get masterpieces such as Bullet Train. Bullet, ha ha ha. Point number 1, subverts expectations. Let's be honest, we've all seen those action movies, right? Well, if you heard a summer action movie on a train starring a bunch of celebrities and has a lame pun for the start, what would you expect? Probably some movie that loses all logic, all physics, and drops everything for action, or while not elevating it, has a message that family is everything, or some crap. Or has characters with nothing to flesh them out that isn't generic. Or you just think it's another John Wick ripoff, right? Well, unlike most of those complaints, Bullet Train actually works around those flaws through its story building. Although it does give up some logic in the movie, like when one of the characters hangs off the back of the bullet train while it moves, it's otherwise really good. Let's get started with the characters. Our main character is nicknamed Ladybug. If this was if this was one of those movies, it'd probably make his name like a passing joke, like Mike Roach. Ha 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 ha. But instead of the joke being his character, but instead the joke is actually his character, who is very unlucky, and Ladybug's supposed to be lucky. So it's actually just more ironic than just a ha ha sex joke. But then he's also an assassin who just wants to chill and do simple jobs and got therapy, making a very compelling journey of learning that he is more lucky than not lucky. But I've talked about too much of the character that only really functions as our connection to the characters. So let's move on to our other main characters, Lemon and Tangerine. Rather than these two just being generic hitmen, they actually have a lot of character beyond their opening conversation of why Lemon is called Lemon because he's sour, and why call yourself Tangerine. They actually have a lot going for them. Lemon is pretty sour but also funny, and learned to read people by his quirk of always referencing and carrying a Thomas sticker book, Thomas the Train, and categorizing people from Thomas or Tangerine, an assassin with a short fuse and as a short shoot first, come up with answers later attitude. But my personal favorite subversion is the Prince. In any other movie, this would just be some man whose wife died to the assassin, although that does happen, but is done very well in this movie, and tries to kill our main character. But instead, we get this younger girl who controls people because would you expect her to be a killer? Or a person who would push someone off a roof only to send someone to the hospital to kill them? No. She uses that to her advantage and manipulates people through that and her general intelligence. Like how she convinced Tangerine that Ladybug has the briefcase, or for Ladybug to shoot Tangerine, also is in part to the fact that they had a fight scene. But her quirk is that she is always lucky, until the end, which doubles down as making her a narcissist. Oh, what's that? Briefcase? Well, it's actually a very, very intricately woven plot. I won't spoil all of it, even though I did already. But the first time, I was just shocked at the twist. Now the plot slowly reveals itself, rather than just having a last-minute twist and a generic plot. This plot has twists through character introductions, through events that they may have caused or experienced, then move the plot after respectively short scenes that all revolve around the suitcase of money with a train sticker on the handle to make a masterpiece of a plot. However, to properly overcome the modern action movie similarities, you'll need intelligent writing and directing. So that brings us to bullet point number 2, the writing. To start off, this writing is amazing. We've talked about how written some of the characters are, but how about their interactions and little comedic bits? Almighty thoroughly dissect the comedy interactions in a very detailed manner. I just think the characters play off each other really well. For example, there's a scene where an old man character tries to tell a story and teach a lesson to Ladybug. This man is one of those more traditional people who have so to have a man, this like American man interacting off of him is actually really hilarious. From the man trying to tell him what a ladybug means in Japan, and from old man's like when the old man goes, they call ladybugs tento mushi, and they are considered lucky because they carry the 7 sorrows. I don't want to carry 7 sorrows. It's much funnier in context. To the scene where the old man tries to tell him the story by saying it's like, you'd quick or you'd like it, and Ladybug's just like, no, I'm good, stop. Sorry, I'm not good at explaining this. To when the old man kind of knows a bit about what's going on between some characters around them, and Ladybug's just all confused, and the two just kind of try to talk about it, so he's just always confused. Additionally, what makes this movie so good is that there's so many scenes like this. However, the writing isn't the only intelligent aspect, though the two I'll mention isn't either. But there's still very smart directing at play. To show you how good the directing is, I'll describe some of the action scenes for you, starting off with the quiet car scene. The general setup is Tangerine is off trying to find Ladybug after the prince told him he had the case. Lemon just got a text saying a person that the two had to supervise was killed. Ladybug killed someone else, as well as actually having the case and storing it elsewhere. I was just carrying an old lady on the car that's really strict on being quiet, since this takes place in the quiet car. Ladybug is a gun, is Whisper telling us about how Lemon pretends not to hear him, making Ladybug speak up, and show the stakes of this old woman. Such high stakes. So Ladybug tries to make a deal that he gives Lemon the case so he isn't killed. The two of them aren't killed. I repeated that. So the two of them aren't killed, and they could just leave the train. However, since he stole the case, Lemon thinks that he killed the guy, and they had to supervise. And since Ladybug killed someone, he thinks they're referring to him. He thinks that they're referring to him. So they have a fight, but they can't make loud noise or they'll get in trouble, and they can't look like they're trying to kill each other. So if the lady sees what they're doing, so when the lady sees them, know to do the following. They do the following. This isn't the entire fight though. Lemon tries stealing the gun after some more fighting. Ladybug takes the ammo, hitting Lemon in the head, and then kicks him in the balls, but they can't make sound, so it quietly writhes in pain for a bit. Then Ladybug slams a laptop on Lemon's fingers, making him gasp-ish, but then he covers his mouth. Then throughout all this, they need to look like they're not killing each other. That was great. But in the other fight scene, it takes place on the back of a train in the refill station for the lady who drives the car and offers snacks and trains, etc. In the fight, Ladybug and Tangerine are just beating each other up until they arrive in the room. Then while fighting, the lady pushing the car just enters the room. They just have to drop everything, and she's just there to do her job. It's honestly incredibly hilarious, but I'm not describing it as such. The lady asks us if they want anything after helping her. Then, Tangerine says they're good, but then Ladybug's just like, yeah, can I get something? Which is just funny, but I'm sorry, I'm not good at explaining this. Funnily enough, he actually asks, he has no money, so he asks Tangerine, the guy who's gonna kill him, to pay. And funny enough, he actually just goes with it. The lady leaves after paying. He drinks a bit. Ladybug asks if he could just talk about this, but he just says no. So then he throws the bottle at Tangerine's face, making him angry. They burst through a glass door. Then mid-fight, they open the emergency door room. Therefore, go out and they're dangling they're dangling on the side of the train on a seatbelt, and they climb in, and eventually, hold on, Tangerine tries stabbing Ladybug's eyes with chopsticks, but then when he's trying to do that, he gets a call on a conversation. They have like a joke where it's like, he's got to pick it up, and then eventually just drops the fight and he starts talking. As you can see, the direction of the action is very intelligent and grows in size as the movie progresses, to the point where they plow through an entire village and off a decent portion of the town's underworld, making the general experience feel that it's much more exceptionally smart. I'm getting a drink. And now, bullet point, Bullet point 3. Finally, to make this really stand out, you'll need a variety of movie elements done. Let's think for a second. What are some integral elements of a movie in general? Music maybe, a message, a comedy, maybe even character growth. Guess what? This movie does all these elements not only to justice, but spectacularly. That's right, Star Wars Episode 2. No, that movie's trash. Seriously though, it's Bullet Train. Let's start off with the music. The movie starts off in silence with only the characters talking and a bit of TV sounds. And we just see Japanese words on a slot, but like in a slot way that shows Bullet Train. The bass hook of Staying Alive is blaring. Okay, this is not your average soundtrack. From Japanese versions of classic 80s to 70s, 80s songs, to pretty good background songs, to songs that represent the characters. The music is great. Let's talk about that last one. Certain characters get their own music that plays in the background, from music from a band that I can't say but is pretty inappropriate, or my favorite, Lemon and Tangerine's theme, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. It starts in the scene where they count how many people they creatively kill, but then there's a version that sounds a bit like Somewhere in My Memory when one of them dies. Spoiler alert. And there's one that sounds like a British cartoon version when he reminisces on Lemon watching Thomas the Tank Engine, kind of sits in a beanbag chair, to the funniest version, a British rock version that's just over the top. Like, this is like a pretty classical sounding song, so just to hear a British rock version about blowing bubbles, that's pretty funny. Also, the old tracks converted sound really good, like Staying Alive or Holding Up for a Hero. However, what is the message this movie has? Well, there's many messages, and even comments on how most action movies don't have messages. But the general message is stuff like, maybe your lack of luck could be luck from worse scenarios. How to control your fate so it doesn't actually take control. How trying to control your fate so it doesn't control you is just fear of fate. Don't piss off the ticket man. He will literally kill you. The whole shebang. But there's the most obvious one. People are more than you expect. This message is actually best portrayed through the prince. She may just look like an innocent girl, but she's actually a heartless, backstabbing sociopath. I mean, she made Lemon bleed, and Lemon never bleeds. However, I did mention comedy, did I not? I don't really need to explain this too much, since I already did, but I'll just say, this is one of the funniest movies I saw all year, and I still laugh on my 5th rewatch, which is insane, but moving on. I already filled up 3 pages, so lastly, the character growth. I know that I just kind of started and stopped to explain about how Bullet Train is better than most action movies nowadays, but I will finish this style with the character growth. My main focus for character growth is Ladybug. Ladybug starts off as a person who is calm and prefers to fight less violently. He believes he has bad luck and everything he does impacts things way worse. But throughout the movie, the action scenes and the talk with the old man, he slowly starts to realize less so sit there and complain about how his life sucks. He starts to realize that he is so lucky. Like, instead of seeing the fact that a truck drives right in front of him, he focuses on how the puddle drove over and ruins his shoes, and not how he's lucky that he didn't get hit by that goddamn truck. And by the end, he's more accepting. Another great example of character growth is the son of the old man. I refuse to talk about him, even though he's integral to the story, because this essay has gone way too long. But one of our main characters is a guy whose son was pushed off a roof. He starts the movie weak, so weak that he actually gets captured by the person who pushed his son off a roof, the prince, and is eventually forced to kill the White Death and do a bunch of things I'd rather not spoil. So he is pretty weak. Eventually, he gets shot and stored in a portable bathroom. This is his lowest moment, and he feels like he failed his father, his son, and everyone. However, the old man, his father, arrives and helps him. He starts his gradual strength by knowing how to treat his wound, making him less weaker, and eventually on to the point where he becomes less of a coward and does something so important to the point where he saved his father's life with the water bottle that is an entire montage dedicated to him, and throws it at the White Death's face, when he has the old man pinned down with the gun to his face, therefore redeeming himself, and concluding this reason. So to conclude, Bullet Train is from what is presented, is much more subversive, intelligent, and well-made film. Is underrated because of what people think. People thought that this was just a normal action movie that doesn't have much to say or do special, but as this movie's message says, things are more special than they appear. This movie in the box office in the end did gross to $239.3 million against a $90 million budget, and was a hit. But this movie is so amazing and spectacular, I feel like it doesn't get talked as much. It came and went. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it 54, which is really dumb because they say that he ripped off Quentin Tarantino, even though he didn't invent action movies out of a plot that changes perspective, but I digress. Rotten Tomatoes audiences gave it a somewhat fading 76%. IMDb gave it a similar 7.3, and Letterboxd gave it a 3.6 out of 5. In the end, despite the rating and box office, what do you think? Because it feels hard to deny that this is a modern masterpiece. Like and subscribe if you want. I really don't care, and have a good one. Good night.